All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Another Bourbon Show. Sadly, I'm still being joined by Steven and Ryan. But what did you? How was your week off from the podcast, guys?
Sucked.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I got exposed to COVID, so yeah, not bad.
Not bad. Okay. I know I threw you guys through for a curveball right there. I figured I'd check in since we haven't met in a couple weeks.
I was allowing Ryan to respond first, so he didn't talk over me because he has like this weird fucking stupid fuck delay thing going on, and then he just fumbled that ball. It was like he was a Bears running back. Shades of Jordan Howard.
Or quarterback, or a receiver.
Yeah, I say David Montgomery's not fumbling the football, man. Maybe Terry
because
Cohen
he's getting tackled for a loss every fucking play. All right, well, hey, we're starting off with a fucking bang tonight, so there we go. Well, anyway, let's get to the bourbon. Tonight we're going to be drinking a small batch bourbon that is newer to the market, but they're a really cool distillery in my opinion, and I think they make a good product. Before we get to any of their specifics, though, Steven, what do you think of that label?
Well, it's Peerless. I don't know if you said that for the audio listener.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, we're drinking
tonight.
Peerless small batch bourbon specifically, not their rye.
And their bourbon it's a cool label, but to me it kind of looks like some old beer or something almost. I see this as like like Greasedick Brothers or whatever, something like that. It looks like an old it looks like an auto body shop or like an old beer, something like that to me. It has a very sort of like 50s 60s kind of look that I think
like an oil can, like an old school oil can.
Yeah, sort of like that. Yeah. And so that kind of is like the overall aesthetic that I pick up from this. And I think it's mainly the font, but also that it's kind of that marquee. We've talked about it before with like Yellowstone. A few other distilleries do that where it is going diagonal like that. I think it looks cool, looks nice. It's well balanced. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I think that it's a really cool label. But with the entire bottle, which I don't rate, I think it's probably like an 8 or a 9 to me. It's really, really good. I think it's a really strong bottle, and I have had the pleasure of having it one time before with you, Dan, and I remember it striking me right away how cool it looked, and I couldn't wait to try it. And the fact that they have just an absolute doorknob on top is really what I remember about it.
And it's heavy. It's a stout, like, stopper. It's it's heavy. It's a stout stopper. Okay, so it's 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Yep.
And then 8 or a 9 if you take the entire bottle into account.
Yeah, the whole bottle. There's not much I can compare it to other than like a water jug almost.
Yeah.
Like an upside down, like a water cooler.
Yeah.
Looks like something out of like Mad Men or on Don Draper's desk in the background next to an old bottle of Smirnoff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's for sure old school. And I mean it's got like, you can't see it here and listeners certainly can't see it. But like there's textures all over the bottle too. There's a signature up here in raised glass. It's just a very, very cool bottle. So yeah,
not many people do that. There's not a ton of like whiskey people that like actually do like etchings, like moldings in the glass. Like honestly, one of the only big ones that comes to mind, similar to like Peerless, would be like Crown Royal for me.
Yeah,
like there's just not a ton that do that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Good call. So there is no age statement on Peerless small batch. But we do know that the mash bill is estimated to be like 65 to 81% corn, estimated to be like 10 to 20% rye, and then 9 to 15% malted barley. Pretty much every bottle you find of the Peerless small batch is going to have a different proof. This particular one, that we're drinking tonight is 110.6 proof. And I will tell you that one thing that always happens with Peerless is that whatever the proof is, it gets me drunk faster than the proof should. It doesn't taste like a higher proof. But if I'm drinking 110 Peerless, it gets me drunk like I'm drinking a 120 proof. If I'm drinking a 105 proof, it gets me drunk like it's a 115 proof. For some reason, it just gets me intoxicated faster than the proof would typically imply that it should. So that's just how it affects me. But yeah, so Peerless is a small distillery. One thing that I really it needs to be said, they're one of the only distilleries out there that does a fresh sweet mash every single batch. They don't do a sour mash, which is literally everybody on the market except for Wilderness Trail. And that's a very, very cool statement for them to be able to do. And they take a very, very scientific approach to be able to do that. So what do you say? We want to dive in?
Let's give it a shot.
I don't know. The viewers maybe can't tell, but it's a beautiful amber color too. Dark. It's almost red.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got a great color to it. I love the nose. I love Peerless. I like their whiskey a lot. Their ryes, in my opinion, are too expensive for what you get because their ryes are like upwards of $100. And I think that you can find many ryes better than Peerless for way less than $100. But anyway, this bottle's about $70.
I think the nose, it smells like a toasted bourbon to me. Um, I don't know exactly like what I'm picking up that would make me say that, other than maybe it's just extra oaky or extra like woody to me.
Mm-hmm.
I get almost like a buttery, like a butterscotch type. It's almost a little sweeter on the nose too. I know I'm gonna get shit for it, but very caramely.
No, it really is. And one of the things that impresses me about Peerless is that like a 110 proof whiskey is that's getting up there. And you don't like I don't feel that the nose is like 110. Yeah, I get some alcohol, but the alcohol smell is like far outweighed by the caramel, the vanilla, the butterscotch. I get a bunch of fruit, almost like a pipe tobacco sweetness to it. Like yeah, that way like far outweighs the ethanol alcohol smell that you get from the bourbon, in my opinion. Let's drink it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ryan, you've never had this before, so I'm super curious about your thoughts on it.
Yeah, that's good. I definitely get that toasted, like marshmallowy sweetness to it. You're right. It doesn't goes down, man. For what you say, 110.6.
110.6.
Yeah, it's a little marshmallowy. You still get that butterscotch that you get on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like what you get from when you drink it to when it goes down, it doesn't really change flavor. I see what Steven's saying with it has shades of a toasted type bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a bourbon
Steven,
I've always wanted to try. I just have never done it, so I'm glad we're actually doing it tonight.
Yeah. So, Steven, you were there whenever I fresh cracked this bottle, which was a little bit over a year ago. How does tonight live up to what your thoughts of it were way back a year and a half ago?
Well, I think that at the time I thought it was good. Tonight, I think it's even better. I think at the time, and I wonder if this is why you also feel drunker whenever you drink it, is because you just so happen to drink it when it's 96 degrees outside next to a lake. Because that's how we drank it. Um, but to me, this is like a combination between like I want to say it's like a Michter's rye crossed with like Smoke Wagon Small Batch or Uncut Unfiltered. If you
Mhm.
melded those two, you made a blend of some kind. That's kind of what I pick up, like the best of notes in both of those. Um, there's something about the taste to this that just tastes almost like a Michter's product to me. Um, I don't know why that is. I'm trying to figure that out so I can be a little more articulate, but that's my first reaction is it makes sense to me why this was uh, one that you liked a lot, Dan,
Mhm.
because it fits the sort of flavor profile that I think you typically go for.
Now that I wouldn't have made that connection, but I think that you are more right than I want to admit that you are. That it does actually remind me very significantly of Michter's toasted rye specifically.
Yeah.
Like the Michter's toasted rye has a lot of similar characteristics to this.
There's like three different bourbons or three distinctly different bourbons I taste within the first few seconds of sipping this. And especially if I
Hmm.
just take my time like swallowing it. And
Hmm.
then the finish to it is just super pleasant and it really invites you to take another sip. And I think that's another thing that gets you drunk is that it's not hard to get ready for that second sip because it's not a dry finish at all.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just, yeah, you can just keep drinking this.
I was talking to somebody literally within the last 2 weeks about it, and I was mentioning how it tends to get me drunk faster than other whiskeys. And they were quick to point out, like, but you like it a lot, right? And I was like, yeah. Do you maybe drink it faster than others? Yeah, that's a real possibility there because
Yeah.
I am a huge fan of this stuff. So that is definitely a possibility that I get drunk faster because I drink it faster than I realize. It's got a very more flavor to it, right? Like when I take a sip, I want more. And it's just pleasant all around. And you don't get it has a nice hug to it. It's got a really nice finish that you can feel coating your throat going down into your stomach. But it's never overwhelmingly hot. My tongue doesn't tingle from a high alcohol content. Um, it's just a very pleasant, all around, well rounded, delicious bourbon, in my opinion. So,
Yeah, it's really good. I could just keep drinking. We got it one of the smaller vials because you probably didn't have much in there from drinking it all.
after I poured you guys your vials, I actually started to pour bigger vials, and I was like, well, shit, I don't have any. Like that would leave me with none. So if I want us to all drink out of the same bottle, I've got to send you guys smaller bottles and then grab another bottle of this to replace this one later on. And I was like, plus, fuck those guys. They only deserve 2 ounces.
Luckily, this one's not hard to find. You can go out
It's
and
not.
grab a bottle anytime, which makes it all the more amazing that every time they're not using sour mash. That's a lot of work to keep producing so many bottles.
Yeah. So, I mean, have we talked on the show about the difference between a sour mash and a sweet mash?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Ryan, do you know like the difference?
He
I
doesn't.
I don't.
Okay.
I
Okay.
feel
No,
like
it's okay.
we did talk about this like when we did Jack Daniels a long time ago because we probably did
Okay.
Jack in the first 2 months of the podcast.
Okay. So a sour mash is literally every single bottle on the market, excluding, as far as I know, excluding Wilderness Trail and Peerless. And what the difference is that with a sour mash, so Jack Daniels is known as a sour mash, Michter's has a sour mash, but literally everything else is a sour mash. They just don't advertise it that way. So when you create a mash bill and you mash everything together and you start fermenting it, you then take everything out of the uh, fermenting tun or whatever you want to call it, and you start distilling that liquid, that distiller's soup, I think it's called, or distiller's whatever it is. You start distilling that. You're leaving behind all of those grains that went into the mash to create that fermented product. A sour mash is you take 90% of that sour mash and you throw it out. That becomes food for livestock, it becomes fertilizer for plants, whatever. About 10% of the mash that you used for that batch that you just distilled, you put into the next mash bill as basically a starter mash. And the reason you do that is because all of that mash has all of the good bacteria already in it. All of the bad bacteria was killed off. So it gives you the ability to have a consistent flavor all the way across. And this batch is going to taste very similar to that batch. A sweet mash is every single time you throw out 100% of the mash and start an entire new batch, not using any of the old stuff. That's really dangerous for most companies because you might introduce more bad bacteria that you want. You're not going to have the consistent good bacteria from the prior batch, and it's hard to get a consistent flavor from one batch to the next. The only way to accomplish that, to have a consistent flavor and keep the good bacteria and not have the bad bacteria, is through really highly scientific processes. Peerless has dedicated a ton of effort into that scientific process, and so has Wilderness Trail. So it's just really remarkable that they're able to deliver such a good product and use a sweet mash consistently. And if anybody out there in the listening world wants to correct me, like if I said something incorrect there, please feel free. Go ahead and comment. Let us know if I fucked something up, because that was all off the top of my head. So it's possible that I fucked something up.
Unless it's you, Connor, and piss off.
Yeah, fuck Connor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Eat
that's
shit.
that's what I'm talking about though, Dan, is that kind of well, not fuck Connor, but I think just the level of work that has to go into providing such a consistently good product at the volume at which they put out product. I mean, it's one thing to do this for a batch. It's another to be continuously doing this again and again to stock the store shelves like we're talking about. They have. And I think for $70, there's been plenty of stuff that we've said is not worth its price point. I think this is one where you can easily justify that price point, both from how good it is and from how unique that process is. So yeah, to me, it's also a good value at $70.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, like, take away the sweet mash, sour mash, and I know you're agreeing with this also, Stephen. I know you're not. I'm not contradicting what you just said, because you said this essentially. But even if you took the sweet mash, sour mash technology away, just based on the flavor, I think this is worth $70 all day long.
Yeah,
easily, in my opinion. I think that this competes with things that are impossible to find on shelves. I think it competes well with things that only get released once per year and people line up around blocks to try to get a bottle of.
Do they say anywhere in the bottle that it's barrel strength or cask strength, anything like that? Because I think that's...
it does.
Oh, it does? Okay.
On the back in very, very small print. It's not focusing, but it says barrel proof.
Barrel proof.
Yeah, it says not non-chill filtered, strictly sweet mash, no water added, barrel proof.
Well, even with it being on the back, I feel like maybe in a way that hurts them from today's bourbon world, because I see so many proof hounds out there that are just going for whatever the highest thing is. I brought it up for the last couple episodes because I think it's just so ridiculous. But the Coy Hill Reserve or whatever it's called, Jack Daniels is
Yeah.
releasing.
Yeah.
Those like
140 plus.
Yeah, it's almost a parody of itself at this point. And I do wonder if there would be more. I don't know that Peerless has the name yet to be in that category that you're talking about, Dan. But I just feel like the more something gets out, that it's good, the more something gets out that it's good and it's a high proof is kind of whenever you start to see it become harder to find. Unless it's a Buffalo Trace product, basically.
Yeah. Anything Buffalo Trace is going to be hard to find.
Yeah.
At least in my world, I don't ever see it in any of the accounts I service. I know it's in Binny's and, it's probably at Friar Tuck down there and other big liquors, like famous liquors. But in my world, I don't see it on the corporate chain side of business. So I don't know. Does like Schnucks carry it down there and Deerbergs and all that, or not really?
I don't think I've seen it at Schnucks or Deerbergs. I don't think so.
I'm guessing that's probably intentional from them and from a distributor side. If this was, available mass everywhere, they probably wouldn't be able to keep up with demand. So they're probably limiting themselves to, the Total Wines of the world, the Binnies of the world,
Yeah.
Friar
I
Tucks
think
of the world.
I can find it at pretty much every liquor store, big and small, though. So it's not, just to be clear, that it's not just the big ones, at least down here.
Yeah, I mean, I see it in, I've seen it in smaller liquor stores too, but like the conglomerate corporation, stores all across the country probably aren't carrying it as much as a normal neighborhood liquor store.
So, guys, what do you think? Should we go ahead and just rate this?
I think so. I think I'm pretty confident in the rating I was going to give it.
Okay.
Why don't you
Ryan,
start then?
you ready to rate it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm gonna have another sip. I'll let you guys go first.
Okay. Steven, you go ahead.
I think this is an easy sipper. Dangerously so at its proof. I think I've got to give it an 8.5. So real solid rating. Definitely up there in my upper echelon, I would say, of the whiskeys that we've done. I don't know the scatter point of all my ratings at this point, but I think it's clearly in the maybe top 10 to 15 that we've done, and that's solidly in the range where I recommend it to everybody to try. But give it a shot at some point, whether you're getting a pour in a bar. Otherwise, I would encourage people to, if you're listening to us in the first place, you're not scared off by proof, and stick to like lower stuff. I would say that this is one you can safely blindly buy without having tried at $70 because it's not that expensive, and you could just splurge on it sometime. Just think of it as two of your favorite $30 bottles. Just save up, get it at some point, whatever you got to do. I think you're going to like it because it's just a lot of the notes that a lot of people like. There's no crazy note to this. It's not like the Weeder or something like that with Spirits of French Lick that I really liked. I think we really liked, but you could see people not liking. It's a safe bet. But it's more than just, at the same time, it's more than just a safe bourbon. There's a lot of interesting, cool notes you can pick up early on that I struggle to name all of. This one is very elusive to me to actually pin down any particular note, but all of it becomes such a pleasant experience. If you like toasted stuff, try it out. I think Ryan's rating is going to reflect that. So yeah, 8.5.
Cool.
It was actually
Ryan?
You're right at where I was.
Dan,
You
you
even
wanna go
hit
next?
on, and yeah, I don't usually like the, because you get the hints of tobacco and or not tobacco, which I was going to say, the toasted barrel, but there is kind of that hint of tobacco in the nose and in the flavor, but it's really pleasant, which is weird to say because sometimes that turns me off, but maybe it's, the shades of marshmallow or even maybe a little like cherry on the note too. It's really good, man. I wish I had more of it. I love the bottle too. Every time I see that bottle, it takes me back to a time period where I wish I lived. Like I'm like, man, that looks like a bourbon out of the '60s or something like that. The
Is that just
toasted,
because
like,
you wish you could be openly racist?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
yeah,
I just wish I had separate drinking fountains and I could.
no, no, not anything like that. It just like it's
Oh,
almost
okay.
it's nostalgic in a way. It's like a nostalgic looking bottle for a bottle that has only been around for how long? Not even has it been 10 years? But
So the bottle actually says that with an unparalleled 100-year history, we preserve the qualities surpassed by none. But I don't think they were doing a sweet mash 100 years ago. So I got to look more into it. Honestly, I need to look into it more.
yeah, it's like Steven said, definitely upper echelon. Some of the stuff we drank that you can't find on a shelf anywhere in the country, I would put this up there with any of those. The proof, you could sip on it and probably be hammered in about an hour, not realizing that you drank a third of the bottle already that quick. It's almost refreshing in a way. As weird as that sounds, you drink it and you don't. A lot of whiskeys, you get thirsty drinking them, but this isn't one of them.
It's
You're
not
just kind of
dry at
vying.
all. That's what I was saying
Yeah,
earlier. Yeah.
yeah, you just kind of vie for more. So I'm gonna go right around where Steven was. I had this right after I took the first couple sips, an 8.6.
All right. And I had it in my head. I'm going to start off with the number and then I'll elaborate. I was going to go with an 8.7. So we've got an 8.5, 8.6, and an 8.7 here. Um, and the one thing that I want to follow up on what something that Steven said that again it really hit home with me more than I wish I would fucking admit. You son of a bitch. But I think that what Stevens, the only intelligent thing Steven said all night was think of it as 2 bottles of a daily drinker. And I was thinking to myself, Elijah Craig. Like, this is easily worth 2 Elijah Craigs. I love Elijah Craig. Elijah Craig is a phenomenal bourbon, but this is at least twice as good as Elijah Craig. Um, you won't you won't be disappointed in buying this instead of 2 bottles of Elijah Craig small batch. I would put this against Elijah Craig barrel proof, any of the Elijah Craig barrel proofs, and I think that this one would probably come out on top. And Elijah Craig barrel proof is one of my favorites. I've got 4 different freaking releases of it sitting over there. But yeah, I think that Peerless small batch it's that good in my opinion. So 8.7, that's really high from all of us. And that's even taken the $70 price tag into consideration for all 3 of us. And that's become really important, right? Like,
Yeah. It just has to, because if your 5.0 is decent, it's okay, it's bourbon, and you can almost get a bottle of it for free if you're just really nice to somebody. So that it has to be taken into account, I think. And it really
yeah,
makes it that much more impressive that these guys again are making their mash entirely basically from the ground up every time, along with next week's Wilderness Trail.
yeah,
Dun, dun, dun.
yep. And so I really like the like the 5 or 6 episodes we're doing in this little chunk, if you will, because like they're all small to medium sized distilleries that I think that aren't nearly as well known as they should be.
With like Christmas coming up and everything too, because I've gone out, I've bought like $100 bottle for my dad before, just because there's some of that niche bourbon where that's just the price of it. I would buy this bottle for him and be like, this is as good as the bottle I got you. It's better than the bottle I got you last year, and it's $50 cheaper.
It might not turn heads, it might not get the likes or the views on social media, but you'll enjoy drinking it a fuck lot a fuck ton more.
And when you're giving it as a gift, it might not come in a box, but you can put it in one. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so you
exactly.
can improve that. You can make it feel even more premium than it already is if you just put a little work into it. Maybe repurpose one of those Angel's Envy special casks you got in there, Dan. Just reskin the outside. You give it to somebody, they're gonna be like, "Wow, Peerless is killing it." This is Steve must have given this a 10.
Another brother showing